So you guys collectively are going to be unbelievably prosperous and rich, okay? And I think the way that you will make money is by understanding these tailwinds. You know, the tailwind for the boomers in hindsight was pretty clear, which was a path to a movement to zero rates, right? When you have 16% Fed funds and you go to zero, I mean, everybody's going to make money. Now, you were 2, but your parents were 42. So, you know, the dollars over that period went to them. Similarly, in a world where rates could not be non-zero, which they are now, the more important thing is to understand the technical trend. And you have had governments spending trillions of dollars to create these 2 boundary conditions for you. You need to understand them and take advantage of it. You will make trillions distributed across all of you. That is where to spend your time. That is where I will spend my time. That is what my spidey senses tell me is the greatest opportunity of my investing career. And I've never felt this way before. I didn't even feel this way about Bitcoin. You know, and I was the guy that owned 5% of these things in 2011. My dollar cost average was like $90 or $100. Even when I knew that that was going to win, I'm telling you that that is going to pale in comparison to this.
Chamath Palihapitiya, tech billionaire and Silicon Valley personality, is best known for his philosophical ideas and being one of the most successful investors of our generation. He frequently speaks out about wealth inequality, social justice, and macroeconomic headwinds on his All In podcast. According to Chamath, the fundamental issue of the past decade has been the zero interest rate environment, which he believes distorted reality and allowed for asset bubbles to form. He argues that low interest rates have encouraged more spending in the economy, which benefits high-growth assets, but has also led to a misallocation of risk. However, with 2020 hindsight, this was also the greatest opportunity for the previous generation to build wealth and the best money-making vehicle available. In this video, Chamath answers questions about the future of technology and business in a higher interest rate environment and offers advice for entrepreneurs, investors, and anyone seeking a way forward in the rapidly changing economy. He gives out his thoughts on what the biggest opportunity is that he has ever seen in his career. Watch the video to hit your must macro view and his insights on the way forward. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video.
The biggest thing that's happened in the world today that has caused all of this upheaval that you see has been central banks moving to zero interest rates. But that was in a world where the economy was basically one where there were checks and balances and capitalism was allowed to play itself out. Right? There were winners and there were losers, and we did not shy away from it because that was politically incorrect. Today, that's not true. You are not allowed to have losers. Everybody has to be a winner. Everybody gets to touch the soccer ball. Everybody gets to score a goal. No company should ever go out of business. Every theoretical sector of the economy could be subject to a bailout. And all of that was made possible because when we broke the glass in 2008, in this great financial crisis, we took rates to zero, and instead of taking it back, we abandoned it. And so we stopped cooperating. But what's interesting about that is that that was the same time that technology companies just completely transcended every other company. Because it was a thing where you could still have truth. You cannot hide from the fact that Tesla is a better car. You cannot hide from what an iPhone is. Does anybody know the difference between airline A versus airline B? I'm sure you could give me a very complicated balance sheet example, but there are no differences. Nonprofits and government used to be a very productive way of moving things forward. It doesn't work today in a world of at or near zero rates, or in this world today, the hangover of that. You have to go work in a technology company and you have to use technology to build a business because there is no problem that you cannot solve that technology won't be the leading edge of the sword. And by doing it, it's impossible to not make money. I dare you to find a technology business that has improved the world that has not made millionaires and centimillionaires and decamillionaires and billionaires. It's just not possible. You know, if you want to be socially progressive and do something interesting, you have to embrace capitalism and you have to embrace technology and you have to do something. You know, there's a concept. When I was trying to get into venture, I interviewed at a bunch of firms. The two most well-known that rejected me was Sequoia and Excel. And Excel had these two senior partners, Arthur Patterson and Jim Swartz. And Arthur Patterson had invented a model of thinking inside of Excel that he called the prepared mind. which is if you think that there is something interesting, you have a responsibility to give a shit about it enough where you learn and you put in hours that nobody else is going to pay you back for. And that's a very simple test, because otherwise what you're doing is you're just checking boxes, trying to get societal validation for getting a job at company A versus company B. Versus if you actually put your head down and want to learn about something, nobody is there to tell you that that's a good idea, because it complicates your life with your partner, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your friends. It takes away from going out and getting drunk. You have to make this trade-off. And then it turns out very few people do. So if you want to really figure it out, I'll give you 2 big trails of breadcrumbs that you should follow. And I've said this now a little bit redundantly, but I'll just keep saying it because it is the most important thing in the next 25 years. So I don't care what you like or don't like. You need to pivot your career to one of these 2 things if you want to be successful. Number 1 is that the marginal cost of energy generation is going to 0. You have wars, you have death, you have all kinds of geopolitics that pivot around natural resources and energy. What happens to a peace dividend in the world when you don't have to fight for that stuff because you have abundant energy? And the cost of making that energy is effectively 0, and it has no impact into the ecology of the world. Well, we're about to find that out. And when you take the cost of energy to 0, now it unlocks all kinds of other problems that before were impossible to tackle because it would be too expensive. So that's trend number 1. Trend number 2 is that we have shifted the ability to calculate and solve any computational problem away from a CPU to these things called GPUs and ASICs and FPGAs. That's all fancy language for things are getting easier and easier to solve. There's a company in Silicon Valley called OpenAI. You may have played with their tools called Wall-E or GPT-3 or DALL-E, and GPT-3. What are these things? These things are massive leaps in AI. Okay, these are models where you can type in something like, and one of you guys should do it now. We can throw it up here, like, Wharton class of geniuses in the Renaissance style. Those are just words, and they'll translate it into an image. It's incredible, incredible technology. Okay, or GPT-3, where you can have a language model now where it can auto-write a book, and you will not know that it was not a human. That problem took $1 billion to solve. Microsoft gave OpenAI $1 billion. OpenAI turned around and gave $750 million of that right back to Microsoft to buy credits on Azure because it needed so much power and so much compute to solve that problem. Today, that problem will cost you $1 million to solve. Tomorrow, that problem will cost you $10,000 to solve. So the point is that we have removed power constraints and computing constraints. On the energy side, there's going to be all of this stuff that happens when basically everybody has a little, nuclear fusion reactor on their roof, which, by the way, is not an actual reactor. It's just a solar panel that collects energy from the true nuclear reactor in the sky, which is the sun. And you store it in your wall, and now you can do whatever you want, right? Do you see any country trudging into any other country to fight over oil when you have zero-cost energy? Just think about it. No. So you're going to rip apart and turn over trillions and trillions of dollars of the world economy. But people overcomplicate the problem. These energy generation problems, these compute problems, these life sciences problems, there are probably no bigger things. One of Buffett's greatest edges was he was sandwiched between 2 generations. I guess it's considered the silent generation, the generation above him, and then boomers below him. And I'm just telling you sort of in a hierarchical sense or age pyramid sense. That boomer cohort, as they moved through, their 20s and 30s and 40s, ended up building an enormous economic transformation. Your cohort is even bigger than them. Similarly, in a world where rates could not be non-zero, which they are now, the more important thing is to understand the technical trend. And you have had governments spending trillions of dollars to create these 2 boundary conditions for you. You need to understand them and take advantage of it. You will make trillions distributed across all of you. That is where to spend your time. That is where I will spend my time. That is what my spidey senses tell me is the greatest opportunity of my investing career. And I've never felt this way before. I didn't even feel this way about Bitcoin. And I was the guy that owned 5% of these things in 2011. My dollar cost average was like $90 or $100. Even when I knew that was going to win, I'm telling you that is going to pale in comparison to this.
What are your thoughts on Chamath's ideas in this regard? Leave a comment down below. This is Market Empire signing off.